The National District Youth Council elections are over. The elections saw a by-election between Michael Gooding and Stephen Duncan for the post of Belize District President. Duncan won the election, however, Gooding is not accepting defeat so easily. Gooding, backed by the Belize Youth Movement, is accusing the Department of Youth Services of covering up corruption during the elections. Today, Gooding spoke to the media.
Regarding this youth council election, there are some activities or some actions that we deem questionable, and there are some evidence of corruption that were brought to our attention by the delegates who participated. And so we provided these evidence to the Department of Youth Services, and we asked them to participate in an investigation to investigate the matter, not to take our word as gospel, to investigate the matter on their own behalf. But they have not made any attention, they have not made any moves at investigating what we have brought to their attention. The laws of Belize state that on the election day, any candidate can give no more than $20, to those participating in elections. And so today we have proof, we have evidence in cases where students were given $100 each after participating in the election. And we also have documented evidence whereby students were dragged out of their classes, without proper authorization from the school and forced to come and participate in elections.
Gooding says that 3 students have come forward with written statements about the corruption. He adds that they expect a full investigation from the Department of Youth Services.
Of course, we expect that fully to happen, because we've brought solid documents, solid evidence, and we're just simply asking them to just do your homework, investigate, because as young people, as the future of this country, we cannot participate or continue the same corrupt practices that have we where we are today. We have to do something different, we have to be different. And so today I decided that, this is my first stand against doing something different, my first stand at corruption. Well, so far we have 3, if you can read the statements, we have 3 students, 3 delegates that came forward. We're still collecting statements from the students at this time.
The Oversight Committee put in place for the elections have responded to the allegations made by Gooding. Deborah Sewell is the Public Relations Officer for that committee.
We have received the complaints. However, as a member of the Oversight Committee is responsible to verify the registrar of voters, to authenticate the candidates, declare and ensure the publication of the election dates, and handle any grievances. So as far as the allegations being made, yes, we are in receipt of those allegations. However, it is not within our purview to actually challenge anybody's campaign strategies. We were responsible basically for just the voting area where people were voting. So that was not within our purview. Well, anything being unethical would have to do directly with the elections itself, with the whole process of the elections, not with the campaigning strategies and not with the methods that any of the candidates employed. That's not what the Oversight Committee is responsible for. So anything that happens outside of the actual voting booth to sway voters, that is really not within the purview of the Oversight Committee. So we did not feel that those were issues that we had to respond to. The Oversight Committee met in reference to this, and we do not feel that, first of all, because it did not interfere with the actual voting, the casting of the ballots, right, which were done electronically, and that process was entirely transparent, where each candidate, we were here to vouch that the candidates that came in were who they said they were, check their IDs, ensure that they did have their code that they entered into the electronic system. Anything outside of that, we really could not be responsible for that.
While Gooding is calling it corruption for selling votes, the department says the election was not politicized. Taryn Butcher from the Department of Youth Services shared the department's view.
The election itself was not politicized. We have to remember that the election was not only held in the Belize district, that the election process itself went smoothly across the other 5 districts. It in Belize City that we saw the tensions because there was a tie. We had to go to the by-elections where we saw Micah Gooding and Stephen Duncan, run for the presidency and have to vie for that. We opened up the candidacy for all young persons, regardless of political affiliation, if there was any. And what they did with that really was their choice. We cannot control that. We cannot say, oh, you cannot use, like Ms. Depa rightfully said, we cannot decide for them how they will campaign and their campaigning strategies and so forth. We ensured that there was the democratic process. It was transparent, hence the reason we brought in an oversight committee of independent persons from the Department of Youth Services to ensure that, so that we could sit on the back burners and just observe and ensure that the democratic process played out.
Some may say Gooding should just accept his loss. He says it's not about winning. Gooding spoke to the media about how the delegates coming forth have pushed him to continue fighting for a youth rights.
From the first time the election, it was a fair election. These persons that were here for the second time around, they weren't a part of the first election, and that is why the result was what it was, because they were not involved. If I take this as a result that is to stand, then I would be saying to my generation that it's okay for us to continue doing things the same old way. It's okay for them to poison the minds of the future leaders of our country. It's okay for them to participate in corruption and get away. I cannot be that person. I have to stand against that, and I believe that today is a start. And I challenge all the young persons, all my peers, all elected youth leaders to take a stand against this, because we cannot allow our generation to be poisoned the same way our mothers and our fathers and our grandparents were poisoned by these election day gimmicks that have us where we are with a government that is what it is now. This, more than anything, gives me more fuel to continue, because the fact that we had some delegates, young delegates, who were brave enough to step forward and say this is not right, this is not fair, I think that it gives me energy to continue. It gives me hope in the future that there are at least some young people who will not tolerate the same old same.
Representatives of the Belize Youth Movement are scheduled to meet with the Department of Youth Services next week.